Julia Gillard announced her reshuffle on Monday, there was not too many surprises in it because the whole thing had pretty much leaked over the weekend when she was putting calls around to the relevant ministers that were promoted and demoted. And that really says it all. That encapsulates the situation. The leaks that are coming are a reflection of her lack of authority in all of this, not just the fact that she may well have asked certain ministers to step down and they may well have stood up to her in one form or another. She's denying that they outright said that they would force by-elections, but there's clearly something fishy going on here where you've got ministers that lose key responsibilities but somehow manage to hang on to cabinet positions. There's also something interesting going on with Kim Carr falling away from cabinet. It's interesting, this is a guy who was actually one of the people doing the numbers for Julia Gillard before she was Prime Minister, but is now apparently doing the numbers for Kevin Rudd to return him to the Prime Ministership. Now that says a lot about Kim Carr and loyalty on his side, but it may also say a lot about what he thinks about the job that this particular new Prime Minister is doing, Julia Gillard. There are tensions within the Labor Party, and this reshuffle is unlikely to minimise those tensions. I'd say it's probably going to exacerbate them, even though it is a reshuffle that is worth having made. There are some names in there that have been promoted that really did deserve promotion, but the Prime Minister's problem in all of this is that she's going to continue to be accused of only favouring her mates, favouring her factional backers, people like Bill Shorten and Mark R. Bibb, even though on any fair grounds Bill Shorten has been a bit of a rising star during the last 12 or 18 months with the job that he's done in areas like disability and superannuation, and even someone like Mark R. Bibb, who in some ways is a bit of a tainted figure from the overthrow of Kevin Rudd as a factional player. He's also regarded from the ministry that he was in prior to now, where it was economic development and Indigenous education, as having done a pretty good job in that position and being good with stakeholders. And this is something that I think Julia Gillard will be hoping he brings to the assistant treasurership and the small business portfolio, selling the idea that Labor isn't all bad when it comes to small business, but actually plans to direct certain tax concessions and so forth in that space as part of its package in relation to the mining tax. So these are some key reshuffling positions. Greg Combet is obviously a big winner, but he was already in cabinet anyway. Mark Butler moving into cabinet is interesting because he hasn't really gained much by way of additional portfolios, but Gillard's just thrown him into the cabinet. Now, one thing I do have a major problem with, however, in this reshuffle is the size of the cabinet. It's like herding cats at the best of times when you've got a bunch of politicians around a table, but to now have 22 people in the cabinet is just unwieldy at best. What it's going to do is it's going to create a situation where more decisions are made before they go to cabinet, i.e. in Julia Gillard's office, or perhaps with a small team around her, or through individual calls to ministers. Now, that's no good thing because we've seen such a bad track record by this government in a range of spaces with the way that it's handled process and policy. To refine it even further, to keep it away from the unwieldy side of cabinet, is bad, and if they don't refine it before taking it to cabinet, well, 22 people around a table are going to struggle to come up with anything at the best of times. So all up, some understandable changes in the cabinet and in the reshuffle generally, but the optics aren't good, and the likelihood is that the PM will cop a fair bit of criticism about this, starting with Laura Tingle's column about it on Tuesday. If you saw that in the Financial Review, she did not hold back in what she thought.